Once I did.
Okay.
First, I just came up here to talk to you guys. I wrote something, I put it together that I really just wanted to read more. I know you have a lot of questions, as many of you have hounded me pretty much daily. I'd order Texas on the hour, but I'm not going to probably get to every. I'm not going to take any questions, so hopefully I answer most of them with what I'm saying here. And if I don't answer, I'm sure we'll talk in the future. So hopefully we're going to keep it short. I think it's for multiple reasons. One, I think it's in the best interest of our team. But we'll leave it at that. So I'm just going to read this, and hopefully you can just stay with me. I don't think it'll be too long. But I think it does capture the essence a little bit of what your mindset is throughout all this, and our football team and the situation. So, here we go. To say the first half of the season has been emotional would be a huge understatement. Getting hurt when you feel like you have the best team you've ever had was a soul-crushing moment for me. Then to learn it's not 3 or 4 weeks, but 10 is another blow. And through it all, you have a tremendous amount of guilt on having let your teammates, fans, and organization down. After all, they're depending on you to bring them a championship. That's what quarterbacks are supposed to do. That's how we're judged. I loved that. I still do. But then here you are, sidelined, without any real ability to help your teammates win on the field. That's when you're forced to come face to face with what's happening. Seasons are fleeting, games become more precious, chances for success diminish. Your potential successor has arrived, injured 2 years in a row, and now in the mid-30s. The press is whispering, everyone has doubts. You've spent your career working to get here. Now we have to start all over. You almost feel like an outsider. The coaches are sympathetic, but they still have to coach, and you're not there. It's a dark place. Probably the darkest it's ever been. You're sad and down and out, and you ask yourself, why did this have to happen? It's in this moment that you find out who you really are and what you're really about. You see, football is a meritocracy. You aren't handed anything. You earn everything, every single day, over and over again. You have to prove it. That's the way that the NFL, that's the way that football works. A great example of this is Dak Prescott and what he's done. He's earned the right to be our quarterback.
Wow.
As hard as that is for me to say, he's earned that right. He's guided our team to an 8-1 record, and that's hard to do. If you think for a second that I don't want to be out there, then you probably never felt the pure ecstasy of competing and winning. That hasn't left me. In fact, it may burn more now than ever. It's not always easy to watch. I think anybody who's been in this position understands that. But what is clear is that I was that kid once. Stepping in, having to prove yourself. I remember the feeling like it was yesterday. It really is an incredible time in your life. And if I remember one thing from back then, it's the people that helped me along when I was young. And if I can be that to Dak, I've tried to be, and I will be going forward. I think you all know something magical is happening to our team. I'm not going to allow this situation to negatively affect Dak or this football team by becoming a constant distraction. I think Dak knows that I have his back, and I think I know that he has mine. Ultimately, it's about the team. It's what we've preached our entire lives. I can remember when I was a kid just starting out and wanting to be a part of something bigger than myself. For every high school kid out there or college player, there's greatness in being the kind of teammate who truly wants to be part of the team. Everyone wants to be the reason they're winning or losing. Every single one of us wants to be that person. But there are special moments that come from a shared commitment to play a role while doing it together. That's what you remember. Not your stats or your prestige, but the relationships and the achievement that you created through a group. It's hard to do, but there's great joy in that. And all the while, your desire burns to be the best you've ever been. You can be both. I figured that out in this process. It's what separates sports from everything else. It's why we love it. It's why we trust it. It's why I still want to play and compete. Lastly, I just want to leave you with something I've learned in this process as well. You know, I feel like we all have two battles or two enemies going on. One with the man across from you. The second is with the man inside of you. I think once you control the one inside of you, the one across from you really doesn't matter. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
That was quick. Yeah, Joey. I mean, what quarterback wouldn't be happy? Somebody else got to take over their position. You know, real talk, bro. Just think if it happened to Eli, how would he feel? How would y'all feel?
First time he's addressed the media
so it's real,
since his back injury on that sack by Cliff Averill on August 25th. I'm Andrew Siciliano live here inside the NFL Network newsroom. There was a moment there where it seemed as if this might be a retirement speech. It was not a retirement speech. Romo would not take questions. He said, however, that Dak Prescott has, quote, earned the right to be our quarterback, end quote. He went on to say that he wants to play now more than ever, but that he has Dak's back, and I know that Dak has mine. Let's bring in Judy Batista, Mike Garofolo. As I said, guys, there is a lot to unpack there. A very emotional Tony Romo. At one point I thought he might actually burst into tears. He said, guys, that he was in a dark place, probably, Judy, the darkest I've been in. What's your takeaway?
Wow, I mean, that was just remarkable how he handled that. The thing that really got to me was when he said, I was that kid once, you know, and he remembers all the people who helped him when he was the young guy. He handled that probably better than anybody could, and certainly beyond what any organization could ever hope for. He clearly handled it in a way that will put to rest any concern that he is going to rock the boat or that there's going to be any awkwardness in the locker room or on the sideline. But yeah, I mean, he admitted all the things that you suspected he would be feeling, that it's been very, very difficult for him. He thought this was the best team he'd ever had, so this was really a terrible blow for him to get hurt. But he acknowledges that clearly it's Dak Prescott's team, and he's earned the right to be the quarterback.
Mike, he called the injury soul-crushing. Have you ever seen a press conference like that?
I have not, and as a policy, Judy's a reporter by trade, I'm a reporter by trade, and there are reporters in that room and watching on TV right now who would have loved to have heard some questions asked, who would have loved to have get some questions in there, and as a blanket policy, I prefer press conferences where you can actually ask questions. Now, that being said, usually when you get a statement like that or a guy coming in saying, I'm not going to take any questions, you don't really get a whole lot of insight. That was probably the most insight I've seen from a guy who was just reading a prepared statement, and I think he did an excellent job in that regard. He really did. And for him to say that Dak Prescott has earned the right to be the starter and admit that that is really hard for him to say. I'm still getting texts. I can feel the phone vibrating. I'm getting texts from people who know both guys, and one guy connected to Dak said that was really big of him, and they know, he knows that Dak Prescott is going to appreciate the fact that Tony Romo said that publicly, and that was the goal. The goal was to eliminate any distractions, answer as the questions as best he could without actually taking them, and to try and move on here and limit the distractions going forward. And again, from that standpoint, with a prepared statement as the bar there, he did a very good job.
He did. It was emotional. I think we all felt that emotion. Mike, my phone is blowing up here as well. Let's welcome back Jane Slater. She's back with us, and she was in the room there where Romo read his statement, which I think Jane caught some people off guard. We thought this would be a press conference, but clearly those were heartfelt words. This was not a prepared statement where someone handed it to him. Rich Dalrymple didn't write this in PR. Tony Romo put time into every word as he wrote it, I think as he read it as well. play in the room?
Well, let me just give you some context. I mean, not a lot of people knew that he was even going to talk today. Tuesdays are typically a pretty slow day in the locker room. Players make themselves available around 4. We started hearing about this around 12 o'clock this afternoon. Everyone scrambled to get here. Typically, the quarterbacks, I mean, in recent memory, have done interviews at their locker. We've never seen a quarterback come up to the podium and do an interview. And even before this, a lot of us were putting bets. You know, how long is it going to be? 10, 30 minutes? How many questions is he going to take? You could feel the collective shock in the room when he essentially said, I'm not taking any questions, but I want to put to rest kind of what's going on here. I mean, I still have some chills. I mean, it was just quiet in here as, you know, you've covered this guy over the years, you get to know him, and, you know, as you sit back, because he hasn't talked to anybody since August 25th, he sees what we're all seeing, something that is completely different, a different tone, a different mood, a different energy in that locker room. You want to know, how is Tony taking this all in? Because you know him to be a competitor, and I don't think he could have said it any better. I think, if anything, as I'm sitting there listening to him give what felt like a concession speech, this might be his biggest legacy in Dallas, whether he gets the Super Bowl ring or not. I think this will be Tony's legacy in Dallas. That speech, the raw emotion, and just stepping aside and allowing this to be Dak Prescott's team right now.
Absolutely, Jane. Well said. He is not going out, but what he is doing is stepping aside. He said he still wants to compete, but he is stepping aside with grace, with class, with dignity, but doing so while showing the emotion, the pain that so many veteran players have had when they know their time is up. And he can still play, but it seems as if his time is up. Here, real quick, you know, we here in the newsroom had that moment where we looked at each other and said, is he about to retire? Jane, looking around the room, did people there, do you get the sense that people there thought that might be what we were watching?
No, because if you know Tony Romo, you know that he is a competitor. And I've talked to people that are close to Tony. He is telling them that he's felt in his best shape that he has ever felt. If you see him at practice, there is nothing wrong with him when it comes to the arm strength and the way he's able to drop back. I mean, he's put a lot of effort into coming back. I get the sense if this thing doesn't work out in Dallas, he's going to be actively looking to go and play for another team and still looking to chase that Super Bowl ring, knowing that he's a part of it. I mean, you heard him. This is soul crushing, knowing that he had one of his best teams he's ever had. I mean, when you look at some of the years that he's played here, I've often argued it's been a disservice. He hasn't had the offensive line or the reliable, durable running back or the chemistry that he has now been able to have with Des Bryant and, of course, guys like Jason Witten. This is tough for him, but I will say that I think Dak Prescott has a lot to do with this as well. Dak and him are a lot alike. They are really into the preparation, the mental aspect of the game. I do believe that they have a very strong bond, and I think he looked at this guy who came in here with a lot of humility and has earned the respect of this locker room, and it was hard for Tony Romo to step in and get in his way. So I do think you have to give a little credit to Dak Prescott, too, the way he's handled this.
Yeah.
Andrew, that's a great characterization by Jane, that it almost was like a concession speech. It's exactly the way it felt there, and a lot of class in Romo's part by showing that. And she's absolutely right. You got to understand the dynamic of players when they lose the job in this regard. Dak Prescott earned this. Just like Romo said he earned the job, he earned the way that Romo came in today and said, I've got his back just like he's got my back. And he's not just earned it with the way he's done things on the field, he's earned it with the way he's done things in his preparation day in and day out, and how he has handled the situation and the things that he has said about Romo all along.
Tony Romo, 36 years old.
And real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Real quick, Jane, last thought.
I just want to say real quick, I think if anyone saw any of this coming, Mike Silver, if you haven't read his piece, he did that sit-down interview with Drew Bledsoe earlier in the year, and Drew Bledsoe almost gave you this premonition of how this was going to go, what it was like watching him from the sidelines. It was a powerful piece, and it really is playing out a very similar way now after you listen to this speech today.
Mike Silver thanks you from his home cam, not pictured currently. Jane Slater, cross promotion there, sending everyone, well done, Jane, to NFL.com. Tony Romo is not hanging it up. No, he is saying Dak Prescott has earned the right to be the Cowboys starting quarterback, and he has Dak Prescott's back. Continuing coverage here, up to the minute on NFL Network.
Again, I can't believe you didn't draft him.
It haunts me every